Good morning. Sorry. And we're in section 101 this time, and we see that it was given in December 16th, 17th, 1833. So some of the um, persecutions and the driving of the saints had already taken place. Um, at this time, the saints who were gathered in Missouri were suffering great persecution. Mobs had driven them from their homes in Jackson County, and some of the saints had tried to establish themselves in Van Buren, Lafayette, and Ray counties, but persecution followed them. The main body of saints was at that time in Clay County, Missouri. Threats of death against individuals of the church were many, and the saints in Jackson County had lost household furniture, clothing, livestock, and other personal property, and many of their crops had been destroyed. So we're right in the middle of some of the really horrible things that had happened. Some of the thoughts I had this morning, I was reading one of the articles you can find in Come Follow Me uh, manual. And I was going to turn to it, but I decided we've got so much to cover. I just cover it, and it was just talking about um, the persecution against the saints um, at this time and what were the reasons for it. Some of it was social, some of it was economical, and some of it was religious differences. There's a whole list of them um, at different times, and different times it showed up differently. Uh, Sometimes it was just individuals, and other times it is organized, like this was in Jackson County. And one of the thoughts that I was having is at this time, if you remember in the Joseph Smith history, when he was talking about wondering what church to join, he mentions that although they seem to show great love towards each other, as soon as uh, at a moment I can't even paraphrase it very well. Basically, that love was not really there, that they were backbiting and fighting and all this other stuff. I think this shows especially in minority um, religions, so non traditional Protestant religions specifically, because the Latter day Saints were not the only ones that were treated poorly at this time. Catholics that had come over to the United States also had a lot of documented um, persecution and um, prejudice against them as well. Um, I only mention this is just so that we realize there seems to be a certain mentality going about at that time. And as I thought more about it, I also thought that it seems in recent years that our general authorities, our um, in um, many talks and conference, and no, I haven't looked them up to give you the exact quotes, but it seems that they've reminding the saints that we need to have um, greater understanding, greater patience with people of other faiths, and so forth, that we should reach out to them and be kind neighbors and loving. Uh, and I'm thinking we don't want to turn it around and be those that of the majority that are persecuting the minority any more than we were um, back when we were the minority. So anytime that we feel that we're the majority, we should take responsibility to reach out to those and show that we love them. I've really enjoyed, we have one person that's been in our ward for some time, um, who has organized and helped be part of a uh, interfaith group, um, where they do activities with each other and get to know each other a little bit better, and get to know each other's religion on such a wonderfully respectful way. And we've been able to do that as a ward. I remember as my daughters were in youth, um, they got to go to a talent show where they got to sing. I can't remember what they sung. It seems like they sung the youth theme song, uh, uh, the one that's Army of Helaman and Daughters of Zion, um, to this group. And it was so beautiful. We showed up quite a lot, and we had more people there than any of the other. I think we had about half the congregation at that time because of the parents and everything that came to it. But it was a wonderful night to see everybody else's talents in there and the things that they um, found dear in their traditions and their religions, and not feel like we have to attack or anything. It was just lovely. But I don't feel that that was the where we were at this time in the United States, and especially in these um, further Wild West, as you might say. At this time, it was Wild West um, area of the country. So let's actually just get into it. I guess I just had to get that off of my mind as we're going through this, and just put ourselves, where are we in this? What should we be looking at? Um, are we just looking at history, or is it us as well? Verily I say unto you concerning your brethren, that who have been afflicted and persecuted and cast out from the land of their inheritance, I the Lord have suffered the affliction to come upon them wherewith they have been afflicted, in consequence of their transgressions. So he's letting them know there are things you have not done. Yea, yet, okay, sorry. Yet I will own them, and they shall be mine in the day that I shall come and make up my jewels. Notice the orange. He is still going to bless them. When he talks about this, remember um, ancient Israel, the things that they were promised, and some of the things are still needing to be promised. The Lord seems to have a different agenda than we ever have. The Savior comes down and is the Messiah, and everybody thinks the Messiah is going to redeem them by taking over the politically, um, taking over the Rome occupancy and driving them out and everything else, and he didn't. And here it's, and there is rhetoric around that, that there is this thought that they can take over in a very um, uh, earthly way, I guess. And yet the Lord is sitting there going, I am going to set you free. And when he says that, he's saying, you know what? I'm not just going to set you free. I'm going to set everybody in the world free. And he just has this higher vision of what's actually going to happen. Um, he says that he's going to rule and reign forever, and then he dies on a cross, and he's left his apostles, and then he has to show them the scriptures. Think of the road to Emmaus and how he sits there and talks about it and says, you don't understand. I'm doing exactly what I said I'd do. And all the scriptures are pointing to this. And I kind of feel that this is where we are here, where he's saying, I have promised you things, but there's some greater things to come up, and you need to be ready for it. So he lets them know what they're there for. Therefore, they must needs be chastened and tried, even as Abraham, who was commanded to offer up his only son. Very, very, we've often, I've heard the scripture, anytime we have a trial or something difficult, that perhaps we're being chastened and tried, even as Abraham. For all those who will not endure chastening, but deny me, cannot be sanctified. He expects us to be there in the refining fire. You cannot be refined. Uh, Metal can't be refined unless it is in the fire. It doesn't change if it's not there. Now he kind of sets the case against them. Behold, I say unto you, there were jarrings and contentions and envyings and strifes and lustful and covetous desires among them. Therefore, by these things they polluted their inheritance. Are we ever finding ourselves in that? Have we ever seen envyings and strifes in our lives? And perhaps lustful or covetous desires. Interesting. Lustful usually means something that is where you're, um, well, most people know what lust is, that you're looking at someone, desiring them physically. Covetous desires, to me, usually means you may be looking at someone and wishing for that. I have seen that before where someone is looking at somebody else's life and wish it was theirs. And that may even be um, someone else's husband or wife or something like that and think, oh, they're so much better than my husband or wife is. And that's not any better. Anyway, by these they included their inheritance. So we need to watch out for those. And then he goes on. He doesn't stop there. They were slow to hearken unto the voice of the Lord their God. Therefore the Lord their God is slow to hearken unto their prayers, to answer them in the day of their trouble. He's just saying, if I do it, all they're going to do is continue to do what they're doing. So I need to slow down, let them be refined a little bit more. In the day of their peace they esteemed lightly my counsel, but in the day of their trouble, of necessity they fell after me. Verily I say unto you, notwithstanding their sins, my bowels are filled with compassion towards them. I will not utterly cast them off in the day of wrath. I will remember mercy. Isaiah put it this way: in these things my wrath hath not turned away, but my arms are outstretched still. Actually, he says his wrath and his arms are outstretched still. That's what we're seeing here. These are the things that they're doing wrong. I have something against them, yet my arms are outstretched still. They just need to turn to me. I have sworn and decreed, and the decree has gone forth by former commandment, which I have given unto you, that I would not, I would let fall the sword of mine indignation in behalf of my people, even as I have said, it shall come to pass. Mine indignation is soon to be poured out without measure upon all nations. And this will I do when the cup of their iniquity is full. So it's only going to get worse. It sounds like, if you can believe that after what you hear. Um, and in that day, all who are found upon the watchtower, or in other words, all mine Israel, shall be saved. And then he gives all these promises. So he's just given all these things that you guys are not meeting the standard. I want you to meet the standard because this is what's going to happen. Um, and then he says these beautiful blessings. They that have been scattered shall be gathered. They who have mourned shall be comforted. They who have given their lives for my name shall be crowned. Can you imagine how it feels hearing these words when you're living in a difficult situation, um, destitute, forced out of your homes? And then the Lord saying, but there will be a time when them that are scattered will be gathered, and those that mourn are comforted. And they who have given their lives for my name shall be crowned. The thing is this sounds like one event, but if we look at what happened with the saints, they that had been scattered were gathered, and then scattered, and then gathered, scattered and gathered, um, until it seems like there's quite a lot of times, um, and they had a lot to mourn, but so many records that I've seen, so many people talk about being comforted and the joy of the saints, even in some of their trials and the things that they should be mournful for. And then they who have given their lives for my name shall be crowned. And we look back at this time and see these people talk about Edward Partridge, and we talk about um, Isaac Morley and many others, and we just feel a reverence for them in what they've done and accomplished in their lives. Um, Let therefore your hearts be comforted concerning Zion, for all flesh is in mine hands. Be still and know that I am God. I love those verses there. This is some of the strongest verses. And he's using those terms that was used right when um, Pharaoh was bearing down on Moses, and their and the camp of Israel was um, was trapped between the sea and this huge Egyptian army that was coming towards them, and there was no way out. And then the Lord says, "Be still and know that I am God." And then the miracles came. Zion shall not be moved out of her place, notwithstanding her children are scattered. Now, I think this is an interesting few scriptures. First of all, it says, Zion shall not be moved out of her place. What the only way that we can say that um, is two things. First of all, because obviously they're still thinking uh, of the land, and that um, I think is still part of what they're talking about. But notice what it says: Zion shall not be moved out of her place, notwithstanding that her children are scattered. Wait, if they are scattered, they're not there in Zion. So he's letting them know they're still going to be scattered. They that remain and are pure in heart shall return and come to their inheritances, they and their children, with songs of everlasting joy, to build up the waste places of Zion. Isn't that beautiful as well? That they will come to their inheritances and their children with songs of everlasting joy. Now, notice they say, they that remain. That doesn't mean remain in the land. They mean remain with the Lord and is pure in heart, and they will come to their inheritances. We still see that, and they certainly would have seen this as Jackson County. And we still look at Jackson County with the thought of, oh, when are they going to return? But we're finding that there's no way we'd be there. But let's read on and see a little bit more about Zion. And all these things that the prophets might be fulfilled. And behold, there is none other place appointed. Okay, that sounds very specific. Than that which I have appointed, neither shall there be any other place. That sounds, again, okay, we've got to get back to that place. There's no way that we can go anywhere else. We have to go to that place. Um, any other place appointed than that which I have appointed for the work of the gathering of my saints. That sounds pretty straightforward. Now we could end there and go, it looks like everything's totally wrong. Everything is not the way that the Lord has just said. Then, if you think that that's the way it's going to be all the time, read the Old Testament a little bit closer and see how many times He's promised the gathering and when has the gathering started? You know, um, when has Zion been redeemed and all these other things that has taken centuries. Then it says, until the day cometh when there is found no more room for them, and then I have other places I will appoint unto them, and they shall be called stakes for the curtains of or for the curtains or strength of Zion. He's saying this is the only place, except for all these other places I've appointed. Um, but we'll call those stakes. And so we have stakes all over the earth. And then we have to remember that he is talking about the whole earth. And he's not just talking about one people in one country, in one little place. He's talking about the whole earth. And we outgrew um, Jackson County way before um, the end of the uh, 19th century. Um, very much so. You think about all the um, settlers in Utah that went all the way from up in Idaho, clear down into Nevada, all these settlements and all these things. You wouldn't have had that room in Jackson County. Not even if we had the ability to do that, it wouldn't have been room there. At least this is how I see it. Um, Behold, it is my will that all they who call on my name and worship me according to mine everlasting gospel should gather together and stand in holy places, and prepare for the revelation which is to come, when the veil of my covering of my temple in my tabernacle, which hideth the earth, shall be taken off, and all flesh shall see me together. He's talking about the second coming, and it's beautifully read there. The veil of my covering, the covering of my temple in my tabernacle. We see the veil in the temple and things, and we're thinking, okay, this is what he's talking about. And then it says, which hideth the earth shall be taken off. He's talking about that veil between the that keeps us from seeing all the spiritual things that we could see, and all flesh shall see me together, not just in the temple, but everywhere. What beautiful thing. And every corruptible thing, both man or of beast, both of man or of beasts of the field, or fowls of the heavens, or fish of the sea, that dwells upon the face of the earth, shall be consumed. And also the elements shall melt with fervent heat, and all things become new, that my knowledge and my glory shall dwell upon the earth. And in that day the enmity of man and the enmity of beast, yea, the enmity of all flesh shall cease from before my face. And in that day, whatsoever any man shall ask, it shall be given him. And in that day, Satan shall have no power to tempt any man, and there shall be no sorrow, because there is no death. In that day, an infant shall not die. Now, I'm thinking at this point, Joseph must have had a tension in his heart and a tear in his eye as he thought about his own children. I believe by this time they had to bury 4 children, and I believe they only had 2 that were alive at the time, very young. An infant shall not die until he is old, and his life shall be as the age of a tree. When he dies, he shall not sleep, that is to say, in the earth, but shall be changed in the twinkling of an eye, and shall be caught up, and his rest shall be glorious. Yea, verily I say unto you, in that day when the Lord shall come, he shall reveal all things, things which are past, and hidden things, which no man knew, things of the earth by which it was made, and the purpose and the end thereof, things most precious, and things that are above, and things that are beneath, things that are in the earth and upon the earth and in heaven. I can't, I just think that's just going to be amazing. I hope that we can see the awe and wonder in the earth today, because when he comes, we're going to learn so much more and have so much more awe and wonder in our lives. And I hope you can enjoy the awe and wonder in your day today, and have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.